Good day, YouTubers. While I'm in the process of making some homemade on the stovetop deer meat chili, thank you, Brother Gary, for bringing me over some meat. Um, excellent dish. We call it campfire chili here in Oklahoma, but I'm making it on the stovetop. Beans, corn, tomatoes, jalapenos, hot, hotter the better, typical chili recipe. Anyway, while I'm in the process of doing this, I thought I would piddle around with making some new trees. So I want to show you step one of my Wisteria tree adventure. So this is going to be my first attempt at Wisteria trees. Anybody that's unfamiliar with Wisteria, do yourself a favor and look them up on Google. They are beautiful. So I made me some foliage. I'm not sure that I'm happy with the color, but it's pretty close. And I picked me some weeds out of my yard. And like I said, this is step one. I'm going to have to let this stuff dry overnight. It's still damp. And then I want to grind it again. I have a feeling I'm going to want this stuff to almost be a dust. I don't know. I've never done it before. But I have the vision in my head. And I have a feeling I'm going to want this purple foliage to be pretty much a dust. So I'll break this segment here, this little tutorial, and let this stuff dry overnight. And I'll pick up tomorrow after I let it dry and grind. So stick around. We'll be right back. Well, guys, it's the next day. I let my foliage dry overnight and gave it a second grind. Sorry about my lighting and shadows, it's not very good. It turned out a little bit clumpier than what I wanted it to do. Not a problem, not a problem. I don't foresee a problem. I've always got use for foliage. So what I did was I took my sifter and I sifted through here and made a really fine dust. Which I think will really improve the results. I think the finer the better on this project because you have to consider the weight, and you'll see what I mean by that here in a second. Be patient with me on this segment. It's kind of a tedious little subject and segment. And it's a learning experience for me too. Like I said earlier, this is the first attempt at this. I'm really not sure what the results will be. Nothing's ever a total loss, if you know what I mean. There's always use for stuff like this in our crafting, modeling world. So anyway, I wanted to touch on the foliage a little bit. If you go back in my playlists, you'll find a tutorial where I showed you how I make my foliage. How I turn something as simple as this sponge into something like that. Which you can always grind and sift, down to a finer material. And I do that just by grinding it up in my magic bullet, and adding paint, whatever color I choose to make for the particular project. And so anyway, some of the things you're going to need for this project, it's always handy to have a pair of scissors around. You never know when you might need those. A pair of tweezers, I think, is going to be useful for the final step. And you're going to need some nippers. What I used here is just this old wire that I had around the house. I didn't go out and buy anything. The results that I'm seeing so far is I think a thinner wire would probably be better, more efficient. Possibly, and because of the shape here that I'm going to try, possibly even a box of carpenter staples, like they use in those carpenter staple guns. You know, they're kind of long and skinny, shaped similar to that. Might make this job a little more efficient. But you know me, I like to do things the hard way. And I like to use the stuff I have, you know, around the house. So you're going to need some paint. Um, I mixed that purple, whatever you call it there, lilac or whatever it's called, iris, and some just flat pink pastel acrylic latex paints. I mixed them together and ended up with this result. Um, and as you saw in the opening photograph, you know, it's not perfect, but it's going to work. It's going to do. It'll do just fine. Um, you're going to need some Elmer's glue or school glue, PVA glue, whatever you want to call it. I just use this cheap stuff. These little cups are really convenient, and you can buy these at your local shopping center um, in a bulk pack, which is always great to have around. These little cups are awesome. I always keep them when I get them, wash them up, keep them, whatever. After you use them, you know, of course, they're so cheap, you just throw them away. But I took one and I cut it down roughly about half, maybe a little less than half. And I put my glue in there because I didn't want to have to fill the cup all the way full of glue. And this little procedure that I'm doing here, you know, requires me dipping it in the glue. So I cut the cup down to make that a little easier. So what I've done here is I've clipped with my snippers, these little bits of wire from my long strands of wire, and I placed them into this little foam block. Pretty simple, just stick them in there, right? I love hanging on to my old styrofoam because there's always a use for it. And the white, when I'm filming the white, you know, I think I find that useful as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this little guy, and I'm going to dip it in the glue, you know, like so, and oops, cover it, you know, as best I can. I'm going to take my ground up foliage, the dust foliage, and you're not going to want to sit around for hours grinding this stuff up. It's not going to take a lot to do what we're going to do. So only grind up what you need. So I'm going to take this little guy after, you know, getting it coated in glue. Don't want a whole lot of glue in your foliage mix, so I'm going to shake that off. And I'm just going to stick it in here, like so. Now, I'm going to show you what happens. I put this directly on the wires, and it's not going to stick very good. So I did that just to show you what I had come across the first time around. So what I found that works a lot better is coating them in paint. The reason I say this is that wire, you know, it's really slick, you know, and possibly even coated in some kind of oil. And your foliage is just going to fall off. It's not going to stay stuck. So what I did was I used green paint and painted these little guys green. You're not really going to see it. You might see some of it, but I painted them green, and that's going to give the foliage something better to adhere to instead of that slick wire. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to dump these little guys in the glue. You're going to want to cover them pretty good. And yes, it will still look about the same. It's going to come out, pretty clumpy looking, but that's all right. We're going to let that dry. Clumpy. Well, sorry, I guess I should stay on camera. We're gonna let that dry clumpy, and that's where the little tweezers and the snippers and stuff will come back into play. So we're gonna let that dry clumpy like that. Each one's gonna have its own little cluster that will eventually glue on there. I'll add that to my little collection I got going over here. And yeah, and that's that. We're going to make little clusters out of these individual wires and the ground up foliage, and we're going to take it step by step and see what we get. Um, like I said, nothing. It's never a loss, there's always use for this stuff, and redbud trees are going to be blooming here soon. I can foresee redbud trees in my future. So I'm already thinking spring, and that's what this little adventure for me is all about. By the way, the chili was awesome. The chili came out awesome last night. I enjoyed every bit of that. Um, so yeah, anyway, that's pretty much it for this step. I'm going to have to let these little guys dry and separate them. And let me mention, see, I cut some of these straight, and some of them I cut like a little horseshoe. Um, and that's where the tweezers are going to come in. You guys will understand that soon. Um, so anyway, yeah, I'm going to break off again right here. We're going to let this stuff dry up good, and we will be back for the final show. Bit more glamorous, hopefully. Well, I'm back. Hey, Mojo. Yeah, it sounds like he's going to be a little vocal today. Yeah, so where we left off, we had made purple foliage. I had green already made up, but I just kind of ground it a little bit more, and we made purple dust foliage. And I told you about how making these little clusters. I also mentioned that the wire would probably not support the foliage, that it would probably just fall off, and I was correct. Painting them is definitely the way to go. As well, with the final project, the paint will be your friend, because you don't want all this shiny metal, poking around that you gotta try to hide. So at this point, let's think Christmas decorations. When you're hanging your little balls on your tree, your Christmas decorations, you have these little hooky things that help you out. So basically, this is what I have created here, are these little hooky things. Now, yesterday, I told you we're going to stick them in these blocks. We're going to do a whole bunch at a time. That was not a bad method. Don't get the wrong idea. The method itself is okay. The problem is, once they're dry and you're ready to use them, you have to create this hook. When you create this hook, most of your foliage falls off. So I want to backtrack a bit and say, make the hook before you follow that step. Do your painting and your hook prior to. So anyway, I have already completed my first tree, and I saved a few of the little extras here to show you what I have done. And if I can do this with one hand, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do them one at a time and show you what I did. I dipped them in my glue. Remember, they were on a block, but we're going to do this one at a time here. I stick them in my foliage. I make my little cluster, and I hang it on my tree. You're going to want to use your tweezers, position it where you want it. And so far, these work better, I found, because you can make 2 at a time. And you don't have to worry about them falling off. So what we do here is we just make a little double cluster and hang it on our tree. I picked these I picked these weeds out of my yard because they had this extra little foliage on them, which I think will help to support your greenery in the end. So we're gonna kind of, yeah, Mojo, I know I'm making a mess. We're gonna kind of skip past that step. We're speeding this thing up a little bit because I just want to get right to this and show you if whether or not you're pardon me, whether or not your time was well spent watching this. See how they dangle? And I know that you're saying, man, that's ugly. But what we'll do at this point is we'll cover these with a little bit of glue. Don't worry about the dribbles, people. The glue is your friend. It's not only gluing these things to your tree, it's going to support your green foliage. So we will top this guy off here in green. These little fur balls on my weed here will serve as a support for my foliage. Yeah, I know, I'm doing this with one hand, so be considerate. See where we're headed. See where we're headed. If any of y'all do your research and you go and look up these wisteria trees, you will find that this is a lot more realistic than you would believe. And you just continue to do this across every branch, high and low. And surprisingly enough, it doesn't look too bad. You guys are seeing the ugly weed there mixed in with what I'm creating. So don't judge it by the ugly weed. I'm going to break here. I'm going to go show you what I did on my layout. And y'all can be the judge for yourself. I'll be right back with you. You know, folks, when I make these tutorials, I ain't trying to be anybody special. I ain't trying to show you that I can do things that you can't do. These things are so simple. And trust me, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Because I got bad hands, nervous hands. My eyes, I can barely see. And, you know, I use Mother Nature to my advantage because she does much better work than I do. I made these little mimosa trees not too long ago. And they're not fantastic, but they serve the purpose. You know, I kind of dig them. I could do better, I think, if I, you know, spent more time with stuff. I rush through things so badly. But I make all my fall colors. Yeah, you'll say, oh, look at all them plastic ones. Yeah, there's a bunch of plastic on my layout. But I make a lot of my fall colored trees just in my spare time. And I know, this is about wisteria. And I just happen to be pretty happy with the results. Don't know that I can get in here and really show you what you're seeing. I'll try my best. You can see the little purple clusters hanging underneath the branches. You know, and I show you this and I'm pretty pleased with it for the mere fact that I have really bad hands and really bad eyes. If I can do this, anyone can do this. And I think if you actually spent some money and got the proper things you need for the job, you could have some fantastic results. I did this with things I had already laying around the house and the love of Mother Nature's weeds. Um, like I say, if I can do it, anyone can do it. That's Jesse in Oklahoma for you. That's what we do. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for helping me create this little tree. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I'll talk to you down the track.